بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
The Israelis, they have long-term plans. They are not in rush at any point of time. Their long-term plan for having Palestine, all Palestine, under their rule, this has never been something that was hidden or not spoken about. They can slow down on their plan, but they never forget it. This is a state. It's a big state. It requires a big power, and there is a resistance that can show extreme difficulty to the occupation, which has been the case over the history. But the dream that they want, they do not want to keep people who can resist.
الحمد لله رب العالمين، الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Brothers and sisters, we have reached the last session, inshallah Rabbil Alameen. This is with our dear brother, Dr. Abu Talha. We went from discussing with Dr. Nasreen regarding the day of action that is being organized by the women section of Hizb Tahrir across the whole world, asking the armies to move. Then we went from there to Brother Akram directly in Gaza, speaking to us from Khan Yunis, talking about the humanitarian situation in Gaza and all the details around it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala end this occupation. And then we went to Dr. Usman in Lebanon, where we were discussing who protects Israel, who are the real guardians of Israel. And now we have with us Dr. Abu Talha. Dr. Abu Talha al-Malkabi has been on the show many a times, discussing many different topics. He is a scholar, he's a teacher, he's a professor, has been on this show many times. And the discussion with him is impending end of the occupation and what that means. Dr. Abu Talha, welcome to Islamic Oasis Live.
Okay, assalamu alaikum, brothers. Jazakallah khair for having me on this show again. And this is very critical time in the life of the Ummah. So the least thing we can do is to at least listen and see, analyze, and hopefully to motivate people to be able to do what's necessary to do, inshallah.
Inshallah. Abu Talha, this session I'm going to ask very critical questions. Some people may not like it, as far as what we are observing in Gaza, and especially the people, the parties involved. And the reason why I say that is because we have observed what is taking place in Gaza many a times. This is not the first time. At least the massacres that I've counted, it's about 17 massacres so far in Gaza, and not talking about the daily humiliation that the Muslims in Palestine go through. Sheikh, now there is a 4-day ceasefire in Gaza that could lead to maybe 10 days. And then the hope is that it may be a permanent, what is being called a permanent ceasefire. First of all, what does ceasefire entail in these circumstances? Meaning, is this another massacre we've seen with the continuation of Israel?
Well, assalamu alaikum, first, brother. The massacre continues to progress on a daily basis. We have almost an average of 300 casualties and shuhada on every day. This has not stopped until tonight. Tomorrow, Friday, at 6 or 7 a.m. in the morning, I'm not sure what time zone would that be. That's when it will stop. At least there is a temporary ceasefire. So the massacre is there. It has happened. It's happening. No one is really using any real pressure to stop this massacre. Now, we have a ceasefire for the sake of exchange of POWs, prisoners of wars. They call them kidnapped. It's not really kidnapped. These are prisoners of wars, at least in Gaza. In the West Bank, these are kidnapped. These are not prisoners of wars. The ones that the Israeli state has captured, especially in the West Bank, these are not POWs. These are people who were kidnapped, arrested for no reason. They just moved in, marched in, and took 3,000. By the time we are looking for returning 300 people of our people, the Jewish state already took 3,000, which means 10 times more than they are sending back. This is absolutely unacceptable deal from any perspective.
Why is Hamas asking for 150 prisons, Sheikh? Although I know the question, you have to answer that. But what is this? Is this a strategic? I mean, are they asking for very specific people to be released, or is it just?
I think in this case, it's only for this time period, for this pause. Actually, it's not even a ceasefire. It's a pause, as the United States called it. It's a pause of fighting, which is it's like a rest time. We are resting for 4 days before we can proceed. So it is. I think there is a pressure from all parties, especially United States, Qatar, Egypt, etc. Qatar and Egypt, they do have an influence over Hamas. United States has an influence over Qatar, over Egypt, as well as over the Israeli Zionist state. So that's what the whole deal is about. But the point is, at any rate, the war continues to be unfair. There is no balance of power. So it has to stop by all means. The ones who can interfere and convert this war into a real one, they chose not to, which is, I mean, the government in Egypt and the government in Jordan, Syria, Lebanon. At least these are the ones who are very close proximity. So this is imbalanced war. So it has to stop. I mean, Hamas probably should be or would be looking not only for a pause, but for an end of this war. However, to be at least pragmatic, not necessarily optimistic or pessimistic, the Zionist Jewish state already has occupied part of Gaza. Their tanks are there. So if they have a ceasefire, and if this continues to be a permanent ceasefire, unfortunately, this is an occupation of a large portion of Gaza. That's a big loss. Yes, it's true. We have seen heroes. We have seen people, Muslims, who stood fast, who were able to receive all these atrocities with open chest and with complete faith in Allah Azza wa Jal. That's obvious. But the other obvious thing is that today, as we speak, if this pause continues for 10 days or more, or maybe for a few months or permanent, that means the Gaza is under occupation. It requires another war to drive the Zionist state from Gaza. And I don't think the negotiations...
Hold on, Abu Talha, hold on. I want to dissect that, because that's a very, very important point here. So I didn't observe this, so the point you're making is very valid here. So now you're saying that, look, according to what I'm seeing, Israel is in northern Gaza. They have taken northern Gaza in many ways. So they have split Gaza in two. And yes. So now what you're saying is that they are at this point in control of Gaza. Although I was hearing that the Israeli army was repelled. I guess not. They're in Shifa. They're arresting people in the director of Shifa hospital was arrested and taken to somewhere to be questioned, it seems. So half of Gaza is gone. The ceasefire occurs, allows Israel to also recoup in many ways. So now they are majority. A lot of the population has been moved to the south. So now the second phase. First of all, you think this is going to happen, where there is going to be a second phase of this war, where the people in the south will be pushed to Sinai, or is this occupation?
Well, let's focus a little bit on the first phase. This reminds me very much of the 1948-1967 war, when the Zionist groups in 1948, they occupied a big portion of Palestine. Then there was a ceasefire, which was called by the Security Council, approved by the United States and other superpowers. Then there was a ceasefire. So the ceasefire now, which means stop wherever you are. Every tank remains wherever it is. Every soldier just stand still, don't move. It turned out that don't move means the Zionists already occupied 2/3 of Palestine in 1948, excluding Gaza and the West Bank. Bingo. So the ceasefire ended in favor of the occupying state. 1967, there was a war. They called it the 6 Days War or 6 Hours War. After 6 days, again ceasefire was called by the big powers, and that ceasefire means stop wherever you are, which means hold the place you are in. That's what a ceasefire meant. Means I'll stop firing, you stop firing. I am in this location, you are in that location. It turned out the Israelis are in occupation mood of the West Bank and Gaza. So what the soldiers or the armies which were still caught in between, everybody had to move to his to retreat to his country. So Jordanian army had to retreat to East Bank. Egyptian army had to retreat back to Egypt and leave Sinai because there is a ceasefire, and the majority of the occupation is already done by the Israelis. So today, the pause, at least for now, I'm pretty sure that at least the big portion of Hamas and the leadership and those, they are looking forward to continue the war, to drive the occupying forces, which are already in Gaza and in northern Gaza and up to Khan Yunis, to drive them out. Now, if the ceasefire continues for 10 days and later for 2 months, and then maybe it's a permanent, as Qatar is saying, we hope this could be permanent. America says we hope this could be permanent. If this is permanent, that means we have lost Gaza one more time, at least big portion. Yeah, half of Gaza. And the rest of the people, most of the people in the north have drifted to the south, and they continue to drift, and the Jewish armies are allowing people to move from north to south, but not from south to north.
Yes.
Anyone who wants to go from north to south, let him go. So,
Sheikh,
so there is
the point that's being made.
This is very serious. Yeah.
No, I understand. I'm going to pick your brain on this, because the thing is, look, what I was hearing from the Israeli side is that what they are saying is that, look, most of the infrastructure of Hamas still stands in south of Gaza, I guess, which is Khan Yunis in these areas. So they are now going. It seems like if there is a second phase to this war, they're going to have to attack the infrastructure. Which means now the people have to go somewhere, which is they are pushed into Sinai. Is this what you're thinking is going to happen, or the Israelis and the Jews will not make this move because they need another party to deal with anyway?
Well, look, the Israelis, they have long-term plans. They are not in rush at any point of time. Their long-term plan for having all Palestine under their rule, this has never been something that was hidden or not spoken about. Since the time they started migrating to Palestine, since the Balfour Declaration. That's what their plan was. Now, 1948, they settled for part of Palestine. 1967, they took over Gaza and the West Bank. Now, with all types of pressures and maneuvers, they settled down to what's called Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, in exchange of at least getting the one part of the resistance, which was the PLO resistance, to move into political movement and stop all warfare. That was temporary. They accepted that, but they never let go of their plans and dreams. And they have spoken about, and in fact, this war from the very beginning, it was called the transfer war. They want to transfer the people of Gaza into Sinai if they can. Now, they couldn't, and there was big resistance. They probably did not expect that. Now they will settle for the half of Gaza, and they move the people to the south. Then they will wait for a next opportunity, another opportunity to happen, when Egypt will be more receptive to the idea of moving people into Sinai. Will be another president, another government, change in heart. Whatever plans would be, they still hold the plan of transferring the people from the West Bank to Jordan. They never let go of that, and they just actually, there was last week, I think, probably last week, where one of the prominent ministers in the government of Netanyahu, he says, "Don't force us to answer the question, what is next after Jordan? After Jordan is gone." So he said, "Don't force us to discuss that publicly." Because someone from the, I think the Prime Minister of Jordan or the Foreign Minister mentioned something about the aftermath of Gaza and all this war. He said, "Okay, let us not talk about the aftermath of Jordan. After all, Jordan was created by Britain to be a transfer country." That's what he exactly mentioned. So in other words, these people, they can slow down on their plan, but they never forget it. Especially that the ones who are facing them, except for resistance. Look, this is a state. It's a big state. It requires a big power, and there is a resistance that can show extreme difficulty to the occupation, which has been the case over the history. But the dream that they want, they do not want to keep people who can resist. See, there is now people bring the issue of Vietnam quite often. Okay, now Vietnam, America was occupying Vietnam, and the people in Vietnam, they were not going anywhere, so there is a resistance. What the Israelis' plan is, the people who can resist must be out of the country. So if we will have a fight, we'll have a fight country against country. Let's say Israel against Egypt, against Jordan, against Syria. But usually resistance from within, it is something that no one can tolerate. It's not easy to fight resistance from inside, whether it was the Viet Cong, Vietnam, Cambodia, whatever, you name it, Afghanistan. As long as you are inside the country, you have even a knife, not necessarily a gun, you can resist, and you can make life very difficult for the occupier. This is, the Israelis have learned this lesson the hard way. So now what they are trying to do, let this resistance move out. That's what their final plan. Now today they cannot finish it. They may not be able to finish it. Probably they will not, especially with all of this ceasefire, America, Qatar, the world, the EU, saying, let's stop it. Guys, you took too long. Actually, let me, to be clear here, America, their position from the very beginning was, given Netanyahu a free hand, do whatever you can, but do it fast. If it takes too long, we'll stop you. and we will come and stop this issues that you are doing. And actually, that's what happened. It's taking too much time. America is embarrassed, doesn't want to prolong this. Just to stop. Now it's a ceasefire 4 days. I'm pretty sure it will be extended, and then eventually everybody would be stationed wherever he or she is, and then we have to deal with this issue at another time. That's the unfortunate case here.
Sheikh, let me. Okay, so we have long-term plans by the Yahud, but let me. Sheikh, Hamas's political leadership is sitting in Qatar, and obviously there is a flow of arms that are coming to Hamas, whether it's from Qatar or Iran. And it's very obvious that Qatar is making the deals, the ceasefire, all of this. Why is it that they're not going after the political wing of Hamas, Sheikh? I mean, obviously they're sitting there, and not only that, Israel also knows that they're sitting in Qatar. America knows where they are. Why do you need Hamas? Why not? What is the need of Hamas right now in the region?
Brother, this is a long story. At some point of time, and this was discussed in the Israeli government and Israeli circumstances, that there was a time where there was a need for another group that can pacify the PLO. The PLO was, although it was Arafat, we know their story, but nevertheless, it was, at some point, it was a pain. It was a pain. So let's pacify this pain and somehow force it into to retreat into another position. So the group, eventually we have a new resistance, and this resistance came as Hamas. So there was a need for Hamas. Now, who hosted? It was at some point of time, it was Jordan, when Khalid Mash'al was actually, his office was in Jordan. Then he had to leave. There were some political circumstances because Jordan has a treaty with the Jewish state. So Khalid Mash'al had to leave, and he was accepted first in Syria, and then after Syria moved to Qatar. So there is a host. So this host is needed, because without this host, you will not be able to deal with a resistance that does not have a visible head somewhere. So the visible head is in Qatar. You have to have a face. And actually, the other day, there was on CNN a report saying that Qatar should be punished for having the Hamas in Doha. And the response of the foreign minister of Qatar, actually, he made a tweet on that saying, look, you cannot even talk like this, because we were asked by the United States to provide a safe haven for Hamas leadership, so we can always talk. So we are not doing it on our own. This was public about the political leadership. So that's the rules of the game. These are rules of the game. This says nothing about the sincerity of the resistance. It does not even talk negatively or positively there. It is talking about, this is the political game, how the game of nations go. You must have a head that you can talk to. It's not a secret. And this is what Qatar actually said. Said, we are hosting the leadership of Hamas based on the request of the United States. So we are complying. What I'm saying here is that when it comes to the political outcome of these wars or skirmishes or short-time war or long-term like this one here, eventually you have to go to the political maneuvers and political game. And unfortunately, the political game is led by people in a place where it has not proven to be genuine for the cause of the Ummah at
Sheikh,
large. Whether it's
so
Egypt
now
or
what
it's
happens?
Qatar.
We lose close to 12 or almost probably 21,000 people dead, maybe more. I think the numbers are almost
Yeah.
maybe 30, 35,000 people killed. At least the numbers that I have is 21,000 from the ground. But
Yeah, that's the official. This is the official number.
yes, official number.
21,000 is the official. The 14 is actually accounted for, and the 7 which are not accounted for.
Right.
Yeah.
So after this many deaths, 54 some journalists killed, 24 hospitals destroyed, the heads of the hospitals taken in, some 100 something doctors killed, some over maybe a couple of hundred schools hit. Sheikh, I mean, and now, and then what, Sheikh? Where do we, so what happens? It's a very, I don't even want to call it sad, Sheikh. So if there is this ceasefire, should Hamas have accepted the ceasefire?
In my opinion,
would it have lost more if it didn't accept the ceasefire?
I think it's a wise move. It's a wise move because there is, as I said, there are 300 people being killed on a daily basis, only trying to stop the movement of the Zionist state further south, and they have. After all, of course, they have lost. There are lots of casualties on the Zionist side as the Hamas continued to talk. And actually, the analysis, we know that usually if any country announces a number of casualties, usually you have to multiply this by 3 or 4. That's normal in military cases. This was known for a long time. So they have casualties. But they are determined to move and to keep pushing south. So today, you have to stop the losses. And we know, and they know, Hamas knows that this current war, the best thing it can do is to keep the Zionist state outside Gaza, as it was before October 7th. But to push, to destroy this state called Israel, the Israeli entity, with this war, it's impossible. This war between Gaza and Israel is unbalanced war.
Of course,
we're not talking about the rain.
Won't somebody question October 7th? Why, in which way would this? I mean, look, I understand the frustrations of the people that what do you want us to do? We're sitting ducks. People just want to sit around and being killed and accept this humiliation, this, that, and the other. I understand that. But now you have half of Gaza maybe lost, if not lost. And Israeli troops inside Gaza, half of Gaza, that's where the ceasefire line ends, almost like a LOC type of thing in Kashmir, where you have drawn a line and then this is not going to be the new line. So then, why make moves that you cannot handle, Sheikh?
Well, I'm not going there.
Okay, fine. I'm asking a question. I'm trying to figure out.
Let me try to answer it in a different manner. The people in Gaza, whether it's the resistance or the regular people, have been living in a very, very, very terrible situation since the occupation in 1967. The most pain that came to the Palestinian people after all of the occupation actually were against Gaza. After West Bank was in terrible situation for a while, but since Oslo, when the PLO decided to just give up all the hopes about the so-called the Palestinian state inside Palestine, so let's at least settle down to what's called the PA, the Palestinian Authority, and Arafat moved in there and they said, okay, drop down all your weapons. Israel, you have the West Bank, you control it, but let us live in peace here. They said, okay, fine, we will do that. So Gaza remained in a very desperate situation. So any move any move that at least shows the big frustration and pain that the people are living is justified. There's no question about it. It has to be, whether it's at the scale of 7th of October or at the scale of other things, when other type of throwing rockets or sending it outside the border to the Tel Aviv or other places. Something had to happen. There was an opportunity to be able to hit back strongly. They took it. I'm not going to question what could happen after that. Would I be able to stand the frustration or the big war machine that the Jewish state is going to use, even to threat with the nuclear as one of their ministers?
Yeah,
he
was threatening. Yeah,
he said it, and then they started saying, "Oh, we don't agree. This is blah blah blah." But anyway, whether it's a nuclear or twice the power of nuclear weapons which have been dropped in Gaza, someone could have expected that. But nevertheless, the death and frustration and killing has been going all the time, but slowly. There is a slow death, there is a fast death. So I'm not going to say, well, if I have looked at the consequences that would be this bad, then I would not have done it. No, probably if anyone who is in the shoes of any fighter in Gaza would have done the same, irrespective of the political leadership, what they want to do or not. In fact, there was a talk that the resistance have done what they have done away and aside and above and beyond what the political leadership would have said. I'm not sure how true is that, but there was something that came in the news which eventually disappeared. I couldn't even find it later, that the political leadership in Qatar was not aware that this move on 7th of October would take place. It could be yes, could be no. That's not the issue. But I'm saying, irrespective of what, there was 7th of October, the Hamas took advantage of that, and it did what it has to do, at least in revenge of what has been happening to the people of Gaza for the last 50 years or so. For the last 50 years, the people of Gaza were living in absolutely terrible situation. They were crushed all the time. They were beaten all the time, arrested. This goes beyond even discussion. So that's not an issue. But the point is, now, because there is a war, and it has been going on for 47 days. Now, ceasefire is good and bad. It's good because it gives you a break, at least to rethink what you have done, what it can be done. It's bad because ceasefire keeps the people on the line they were. There is no ceasefire that tells the occupier, look, you have come all the way to Khan Yunis, go back. Ceasefire means stay where you are. Politically, that's what it means. Militarily, that's what it means. So it's bad from this side. It's good from the side that the killing machine stops, at least for a while, gives me a chance to treat the wounded, to get the children some milk, to get some life for at least a few days. This is it's like a sword, the edge of a sword that you are sitting on. Either way you move, it's going to scratch you and wound you and bleed you. So that's the brothers in Gaza. They are in a very desperate situation. Saying yes is worse than saying no. Saying no is worse than saying yes. It's a very terrible situation. Now, as we said in the past many times, the only or the biggest hope was that these regimes in the area should move forward or should leave. That's we've had hope that there would be a change, a serious change, a revolutionary change in the borders of Palestine, not in the borders of Gaza. where they say on the border of Gaza there are some settlements. We were thinking or hoping that those settlements, I would call them the settlements, outside Palestine would be somehow changed or removed as settlements and become states. These are settlements, they should, but that did not happen. The people in Egypt, in Syria, in Jordan, in Lebanon did not move in the right direction. They moved in raising up the flag of Palestine, which is good, alhamdulillah. They moved in asking for United Nations to help. They moved in crying out for the criminal court, the International Criminal Court, to punish Netanyahu and his. But that did not happen. The people cried out for that. But the real cry out, the real move, is to take control of the power in these countries had not happened, and there is no sign that it's happening anytime.
That's the,
at least
so
now.
At least now, this is the discussion. The last discussion. I don't know if you heard the discussion with Dr. Osman, and he was saying that look, Sheikh, and when it comes to Egypt, and when people are asking, well, of course, the Muslims in general obviously are asking that move the armies. There is, at least in Egypt, there is no real sustainable opposition to Sisi that can actually remove him, according to what So how?
Well, look, I don't agree with that, because I remember 4 months before removing Hosni Mubarak, I was in Egypt, and I had a discussion with some people there. I remember we were sitting having some coffee and tea along the Nile River after midnight, and I was talking about exactly the possibility of removing Mubarak and having another regime that is more in line with our ummah, with the feelings and the emotions and the ideas of the ummah. And the people who were sitting with me from Egypt, they said, look, you are talking about mission impossible. There are no people qualified to do that. There is no ground for that. 4 months after that, the revolution started in Egypt, in parallel with the ones that was happening in Tunis, and Hosni Mubarak was gone. So that's, no one can really decide or determine that the people in Egypt or in Jordan or in Sudan or in Iraq cannot make a move, because inside these nations, any ummah that has oppression, look, any ummah that is oppressed from within, there is something boiling inside. Now, when that boiling liquid or type of material comes to the surface and makes a big action on the surface, no one can tell. No one can tell when that will happen. But I don't believe at all that inside the Muslim Ummah, in any country, any place, whether it's Algeria, whether it's Morocco, Tunis, Pakistan, Turkey, within the Ummah there is not a motion that's happening all the time, which at one point of time can reach the point of explosion that will become like the Arab Spring and remove Mubarak, as it removed Mubarak, remove Sisi, as it removed Zain al-Abidin bin Ali. It can again remove Saeed, or removes the ones in Libya or in Iraq or in Jordan or in Syria even, which never materialized. So this is within nations, within Ummah. Now, the Muslim Ummah is a moving Ummah all the time, because there is the Quran and the Hadith, and Islam is something that always generates momentum. Islam is unlike any other idea. It doesn't move one day, and if it doesn't work, then it dies out. No, Islam is a continuous energy that keeps moving and putting motions within the Ummah until it lines up and generates a current within the Ummah that can light the bulb. And that is the power of Islam. The only thing that can do that is Islam. All other ideas can do it, but they can do it once. And if it fails, it never comes back. And if it succeeds once and fails, then it dies out. Islam, no. Islam has a continuous power that can move the people all the time, anytime, and then when it reaches the moment of boiling and explosion, it depends on many different conditions, but at any point of time it will happen. So I don't believe that in Egypt there is no internal momentum that's moving that will come out and bring a new regime which can last more than the regime of Morsi that lasted less than 2 years, and in the other countries as well. That the reason I'm talking about that, because I see that the whole world continues to support a state called Israel. And the whole America is running and making a big now international public opinion and public demand that there has to be two-state solutions. One of them is Israel, which has to be permanent. See, this permanent position for the entity called Israel is becoming more realistic, more real, not realistic, more real on the ground. Everyone is talking about that now. Even look, the other day, the British Prime Minister, he was very shy, but he spilled that Britain has always maintained that there has to be one common state for Palestinians and Jews. Now, call it Israel, call it as Gaddafi was calling it Isratin, which means like Israel, Palestine, which was the British. He was saying, if this is in favor of Israel and supports its existence, then we will be willing to accept a two-state solution. Even Britain had this already spelled out. America had spelled it out a long time ago. And today, Europe, EU, Arab countries, everyone is calling for that. And that's a disaster. Accepting that and becoming a public or an international reality accepted within the Middle East, that is disaster. It becomes Israel. If that takes place, it becomes like Spain after Andalus was gone. Today, only someone would be out of his mind to come and say, look, Spain belongs to the Muslim world. You will be absolutely crazy, insane if you mention that even. And even your own friends, your own brothers, your own people would probably not listen to you. And if that two-state solution comes in, whether Palestine is Gaza and the West Bank, whether it's the south of Gaza and the West Bank, whether Palestine is Jordan, as there is a big talk on this issue, it doesn't matter. What matters really is the acceptance internationally and locally by Arab countries, by the even the Palestinian people themselves, by everyone, that this is called Israel. It's a state, it's official state now, and forget about this land being called Palestine. If you utter the word and you mention the name Palestine in relation to the place where Israel is going to be the state, whether it's Haifa or Jaffa or Akka or Al-Quds, Jerusalem, or maybe even the Gaza city itself, which is where the troops are, or possibly part of the West Bank, if you mention that this is part of Palestine, you will be called to the international tribunal and you will be in defiance of international law and international relations, and you could face lots of consequences. And that is what I think is the danger of the outcome of this war.
Subhanallah. Okay. So, Sheikh, when we talk about vision, I mean, you are laying out what could happen if there is two-state solution. You're laying out Now what's happening in Gaza, let's say even now the future of Jordan, we don't know, looks uncursed. We have no idea what's next, at least the next 10 years. Sheikh, but when we talk about movements, you're saying that, look, you don't accept that there is no movement or people frustration inside Egypt. I understand that, and I accept that also, let's say. But, there is that. I mean, in many ways, Ikhwan came in power, and we see what happened to Dr. Morsi, rahmatullah alayh. We also saw what happened in Algeria with Islamic Salvation Front. We saw in Pakistan. I mean, there's many movements. There's Jamaat Islami, this, that, and the other. But Sheikh, we haven't ever seen an Islamic movement that comes and with a clear vision to take power. Is this something? I guess the worry is that many of them that claim Islam, then they come back and then they're talking the same nonsense in many ways, which is democracy and capitalism, and then they play with the same game, the same rules of the game that are applied now. And for instance, now Taliban are playing with the same nation-state game, same nation-state model. They fought for 20 years, not 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever. And then now 20 years against Soviet Union, 20 years against United States. And here we are they're talking the same nonsense that anybody else is talking, stuck in the same nation-state model syndrome. When you say there is change, there is frustration, what do you mean?
Look, brother, after 100 years of no Islamic actual rule, Islamic State officially was gone almost 100 years, 100 minus 1, almost 99 years. The decline of Islamic civilization was even happened long time before the collapse of the Khilafah. It was at least maybe 60, 70 years before that, or maybe more. And to see that the Ummah is trying, at least what I saw in Algeria, it's a trial. They tried. Yes, they tried. It didn't succeed. Fine. In the Arab Spring, there was a trial. It means the Ummah is alive. There is a power within the Ummah. There is a momentum to move. Now, this momentum, after all these years of decline, to see that momentum and reaching a position where we are either inside governments and the states or very close, that shows the power of Islam being able to move the Ummah. And that power continues to be there. I'm not very much concerned that, there was an attempt or some success, but then we failed in Afghanistan and in Egypt, and then to me that is a proof that our Ummah is alive for the very reason that Islam continues to work on the hearts and the minds and the brains of this Ummah. So yes, we are going to stand up and stumble, just like a baby who starts walking anew. That means he falls and somebody picks him up, or he comes up again, starts walking, then again you fall. That means there is life. This Ummah is alive. I'm not disappointed. I'm not pessimistic. In fact, every time I see emotion within the Ummah, whether it's in Syria, they continued for almost 10 years and they are still working, raising the banner of Islam. They have not achieved their objective. They lost more lives than we have lost in Gaza. They have lost more babies, more children, more people died out of hunger. They lived for many nights without food in bad weather and cold. But still, you still can see there is a potential here. There is a potential in Iraq. There is a potential even in the Gulf states, which were thought to be lost for a while. I recently was in visits to Kuwait and then to Qatar and to other places. I could see actually the blood flowing in this location. So I'm not concerned. I will be concerned only if the people lose faith in the religion, in the book of Allah Azza wa Jal that they read on a daily basis. Alhamdulillah, this has not happened. People continue to read that, and this Quran is going to move the people. If it doesn't move me, it will move my children. If it doesn't move my children, it will move their cousins. And that's what exactly is happening. What we have seen in Gaza today, Gaza represents the Ummah everywhere. Everywhere. If this has happened to the Ummah anywhere in Kashmir or in Myanmar or in Algeria or in Libya, we will see the same steadfastness, the same cry out for Allah Azza wa Jal and for Islam and for the Quran. Gaza is a model. Gaza is not a unique case. It's not a case that's going to be done as one simple scenario in this whole Muslim world. No, it's a representation. It's a model. It's exactly what we have seen in Syria. It's exactly what we have seen in Iraq when Iraq was occupied in 2003 by the United States, until US were inside Iraq, until they were forced to actually leave and to hide in closed barracks in close to the airport in Iraq, not to be seen or visible even by the people of Iraq, who may have even have lost confidence in the ability to resist. But there was a time when the number of casualties the Americans used to suffer in Iraq, it was in the hundreds, not in the 50s, until 2006, when they were able to create a rift between the Shia and the Sunnah, and they changed the whole game of war. For the Sunnis will be fighting the Shias will fighting the Sunnis. Then the Americans were safe in Iraq. Otherwise, we all remember how it was between 2003 and 2006. Same way in Afghanistan. So what I'm saying is, what we have seen in Gaza in the last 46 days, we have seen how the Ummah responds to atrocities. Now, when this is going to mature into an overall volcano that takes up the entire Ummah, not only one piece of it, no one can tell. All we can tell is that this motion within the Ummah is growing. The heat is heating up more and more, and we will definitely get to the place where Islam is going to be the ruler. Actually, the president of the state, the Zionist state, which they call it Israel, recently when he made a visit to France, he explicitly said, our fight today in Gaza is to protect Europe from seeing Islamic armies around the walls of Vienna as they did back in the 16th century. That's exactly what he was saying. And he knows that, and they know that. There is, in this part of the world, there is extremely strong power that at any point of time can reach to the top and becomes the sovereign entity in this whole Muslim world, and then the world will no longer face oppression or practice oppression against anyone. Neither America, nor Europe, nor Britain, nor Russia, nor anyone can practice oppression on any type of people, whether Muslims or non-Muslims alike. Look, oppression today, look around you. The most oppressive regimes in the world are the biggest powers, whether it's Russia, Britain, France. Have you seen how France crushed their demonstrations last year? The ones who were calling for the change of the social security and extending the time of people receiving their social security. They crushed them on the streets. Yeah. And they arrested hundreds or thousands of them. Have you seen America how they did with George Floyd? That was a symbol. It's not George Floyd only. This was the way black people are treated in the United States of America until today. Someone puts his foot on the neck of someone until he makes his last breath in this life, calling for just to be able to breathe one more second out. He's gone. We have seen that. Everybody see, and that's the one you have seen on TVs. And there are thousands like these. They get suffocated on a daily basis, not only in Palestine. Palestine in front of the entire world. Palestine in Gaza, people are saying, if we die, we will go to Jannah. They don't care about their, it's not that they don't care about their life. They have two lives. And they know the next one is better than this one. Whereas there are many people who believe wholeheartedly that this is the only life they live. And they suffocate them. That's the disaster. That's the absolute injustice. Look, it is injustice for the people in Gaza to be crushed like this. But the people in Gaza, at least, they all, when they face death, they face a new life. They say, this death begins my second life, which is life in heavens. And this is a fact. And they believe it, at least. Whereas the real injustice, the absolute injustice, where you are suffocating someone who thinks that this is his only life he can live. This is the only time he can breathe. He will never see another life. And you kill him. And you take that life out of him, just like George Floyd. So Islam, what I am saying here is, look, the world, I'm not, from my position here, I'm not only concerned about Gaza.
Sure.
Gaza, I know it will survive. My concern is about the entire humanity. And that's what Allah Azza wa Jal in the Quran, He told us, look, I am sending messengers and books and scales and measures and all types of parameters that you can live with so that people can stand up for justice. لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. That's in Surah Al-Hadid, in the Surah, the Iron. Allah did not send messengers so that the Arabs can live fine, or the people of Gaza can survive, or the people in Pakistan can live in happiness. No, no, no. He said, look, I'm giving you all of this so that people can live in justice. Which people? Which people? In Africa, in the last year, we have seen 3 or 4 coups d'etats. One organized by America, one organized by France, one organized by whoever. Everybody is making coup, and with this coup, when you say a coup, you would be assured that there are thousands of people who have lost their lives or jobs or even their belongings. Just with one coup, one military coup. How many we have seen? How many years we have seen in South Africa the discrimination, or what do you call it, the apartheid. We have seen that all over. We have seen it in China. How many people from the Uyghur have been killed, imprisoned? This whole almost 150 or more million, about 200 million people in big prison. In big prison. They die, nobody knows about them. We are not talking only Gaza. We are not selfish. Look, I want the people to understand. We are not selfish. I'm not selfish about my case, my kids, my own family. What we believe in, we believe that we have a system that brings light to the entire world. Not like Netanyahu, he said, we are the light, everybody else is in darkness. We are the people who deserve to live, everybody has to die. In his, what he believes in, he says even the child in the womb of his mother, you can kill that one. And he believes in that. He uttered that. He believes in that whether it's a child, whether it's a baby, whether it's a baby in the womb of his mother, all can go to hell. He thinks they go to hell, they go to heavens, they lose their life. What we are about, and I want to generalize this, what we are about bringing that word that Allah wants the people to live according to justice, and justice means the regulations that He puts. There is no one in the world, whether it's capitalism or socialism or nationalism or any ism or fascism or Nazism, who has ever decreed laws which have inherent justice.
Allah.
Inherent justice means means that you have no bias whatsoever. You are not biased to the Jews, to the Bani Israel, as they think, or to the Bani Arab, or to the Bani Urdus, or to the Bani Persians. You must have absolutely no bias. The only one who has no bias is Allah Azza wa Jal, because He's the creator of all. He created the people, He created dogs, He created the cats, He created birds. That's why Umar bin Abdul Aziz was saying, we have to throw our grain on the mountain so birds can eat. Because these birds, these animals, they have the right to live because they are the creations of Allah Azza wa Jal. That's our belief. So today, although we are talking Hamas, we are talking Gaza because that's the real case, but we really want our people to understand what we are about. We are not about saving one more person in Gaza only. We are about saving the entire world from these atrocities. These atrocities are not happening in Gaza alone. What the world order is about, is about dominations. Look, I personally heard talks when I was working in the US in one of the companies telling me, do you know what's the solution for the world about hunger and poverty in the world? I told the guy, what do you think? He said, removing 2/3 of the populations of the world. Kill them all. I said, are you serious? He said, come on, let's make calculations, math. He said, math talks. God, you think you are going to give me numbers based on these calculations, calculus of you are to kill 2/3 of the people? And then you tell me, what do we need the people in Africa for? If they sit on the majority of the resources of the world, why do we need those people? Because the other people in the West, they need these resources. These people, they shouldn't be there. This is mentality of someone like Trump, like Biden, like Netanyahu. That's their mentality. Kill them all. Kill
Sheikh,
them all.
Because Maghrib, literally we are in Maghrib time. I want to just ask one more question. This will be a last question. Unless do we have any questions? So here's the thing, Sheikh. We had, before Salah ad-Din came, I mean, obviously, even we had 100 years of rule of the Crusaders and things like this. So, of course, the Ummah has always turned around, and it will turn around again. We just hope that we are part of that change, that we are part of that, making the change happen and getting the reward for it, inshallah. But Sheikh, you had Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, rahmatullah alayh, then you had Abu Bakr Tartushi, and you had scholars who had come that made a lot of work that happened in the time, that gave us people in Mosul, like the family of Imaduddin Zanki or Nuruddin Zanki, and then hence comes Salah ad-Din. So there was some work that was done. I know I'm asking you a lot to do this in 1 minute. Is there, what kind of work did they do that brings about Salah ad-Din, although it takes 90 years? What do we need to do now? Or are we... Go ahead.
Brother, what you are doing right now, the conference that you had, you brought series of people to promote, to push, to give hope to the Ummah to be on the straight path. That's exactly what they were doing. In fact, they were doing it individually and running from place to place, from masjid to masjid. They did not have the ability to address millions of people through YouTube, through internet. It was only their foot. They walk on their foot and they address people, and it took a very long time, whether it's throughout the Mughal wars or the Crusader wars, which lasted for 200 years. These scholars, these alims, they had to speak out. And of course, there were many who were not able to speak out. Many of them, they were, just like today, they were either hopeless or they decided just to make the dua, or to sit at home, say we can do nothing about that. But there were some of them who stood day and night, who walked thousands of miles barefooted until they had their message reach out to the people. So that Salahuddin would be born. Salahuddin did not come out just like that because he, as a baby, his mother or his father decided, oh, we'll have a child and this child will grow up and become Salahuddin. No, he came out of long process of boiling until from all of that boil came out this type of diamond, which we call it. You get a diamond, you get a whole mountain, you move an entire mountain, you crush an entire mountain to get one piece of diamond. It's not that easy just to go and walk by the river and say, oh, I just spotted a diamond, let's go and pick it up and make it nice and sell it for maybe $50,000. That's not how it goes. Diamonds are too precious to find. In fact, not to find, you have to move mountains to be able to get one piece of big diamond. That's what France did in Africa. Otherwise, why would they occupy Africa for tens or hundreds of years? Because it takes too much time to get these diamonds. And the same thing, our diamonds in Islam, you have to make them. You have to move a lot so that you will find a Salahuddin one more time, or Khalid bin Walid, or Omar bin Abdul Aziz, or any of these. This is a lengthy process. It's a dynamic process, and dynamic processes by nature, they are very tedious, very complicated. Even when they are dynamic processes for material beings, are very drastic, and they are very expensive. But dynamic motions for people, it's even much more complicated, because dynamic processes with people means life. It means losing breath. It means losing a child, losing life, because that's what dynamic processes within people. So there is a big pain. But dynamic processes within material being, it's only you are losing your what do you call it? You are wasting maybe your energy. You sweat, actually sweat. But with dynamic processes with people, you sweat blood. And that's why you said, yes, in the past, not all the scholars moved. Not like Al-Izz bin Abd al-Salam. Not all were like Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. Not all were like Tartushi. Not all were like... But there were thousands of scholars that we don't hear about. They lived and died. But whom we hear about? We hear about Ahmad bin Hanbal. We hear about Ibn Taymiyyah. We hear about Al-Izz bin Abd al-Salam. We hear about the ones who made difference. So the ones who make difference, they remain in the image, the historical image of nations. So today, we may not be able to do that change today, right after this show. But after this show, our image will remain, because we are some of the people who are trying to make a motion to move. We're ready, alone or with the groups of people, to lose our blood and our breath so that other people can live. And that's what Al-Izz bin Abd al-Salam was about. That's what Ahmad bin Hanbal, why he lost his life at the time, because he wanted to move the people after his death, and he did. Now, do you think that the Muslim history does not have more than these tens or dozens of scholars? There's thousands of scholars, thousands. You don't hear about them. You hear about the ones who made a difference and made a change.
Sheikh,
that's what your show is about. Yeah, go ahead.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it, Sheikh. Wallah, that's exactly what we're trying to do. Go ahead, Sheikh. Put that question up there. The question is, could you please address the problem of political ignorance in Ummah and the importance of politics in Islam? I would actually add to that, Dr. Abu Talha, and that is, look, I posed this question to Adnan, who's also a historian, and I asked him this question. I said, look, in the Muslim world, well, here, look, first, United States, it's a lot of social media and awareness of what's happening in that area has moved the people. It's keeping the people awake, keeping the people moving. That this cannot happen again. But in the Islamic world, Sheikh, or in the Muslim world in general, the Islamic movements played a very specific role in in keeping the Islamic awareness or the political awareness so high, so that the population move, or the populations move. By trying to somehow end the Islamic political movements, so-called political Islam, also in these regions. Is this what they are trying to do? Is that to end political awareness of the Muslim Ummah, so that it does not once again move with some real actions in hand?
Okay, look, the struggle is ongoing, and it's going for a long time. It never stops. Never stops. From the time Adam alayhi salam was created, when the struggle between his own two children, one for what stands up for what's right, and one stands up for what's immediate benefit, continues. It will never stop. Now, what really bothers the world, any world order at any point of time, is when an idea is born and is being moved by some people that threatens their current interest, they will have to stand against it. That's natural. When Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he came with a message from Allah Azza wa Jal, the people of Quraysh did not have an issue with the fact that there is a God who creates. In fact, in the Quran, it's very clear. وَلَئِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ لَيَقُولُنَّ اللَّهِ. If you really come down to earth and ask them, who created this whole thing, they would say it's Allah. Then what's your problem? Their problem, because this man called Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he brought a system that does not comply with their own self-interest. They want to continue to do riba, to take money from the people by giving them loans and taking usury about that. He came and said, that's not allowed. I will not allow that. He came and said, you cannot just deal with sexual activities the way you want, or drink alcohol, or be this, or be that, or cheat the people, al-mutaffifin. They say, wait a second. Now this man is trying to interfere with our own life affairs. So we have to stop them. We'll fight him. Today, when the world order decides politically, anyone who wants to bring the new message of Islam as a political message, political means it has to deal with the affairs of the people. That's what political means. It has to do with the life of the people. It has to do with the money, how you earn money, how you spend it. No. We have our own system. Do not interfere with our capitalism. Our capitalism is about collecting money and spending money the way we want. Don't come and tell me, how do I collect my money? I have banks. I can rip off entire populations and get Egypt to be in debt for hundreds of years to go, in debt Turkey for hundreds of years, that they cannot pay back their loans or the interest on their loans. That's not your damn business. If your Islam tells me stop taking from the World Bank loans, stop taking from the IMF, stop using the paper money dollar that has no backup at all, come and use only gold-based money, I'm not going to allow you even to talk, because you are threatening my interest, because this is my life, because this is my world order, because that's what globalization is about. You are telling me, you are bringing a new ideology to tell me how to spend money and how to collect money and how to invest. You have no room here. It's not because You have a masjid that has big minarets. I remember I always give this example when the British occupied the Muslim world and the British general was moving into Baghdad, beginning of the 20th century, and he heard the adhan. Looks like this British general was ignorant. He didn't know that this is adhan calling for prayer. And he was worried. He thought that this big guy who's crying out or loud, he's trying to mobilize the people against the occupation of Baghdad. He asked his consultants, his advisors, they said, no, don't worry about it. He's just calling for prayer. He said, does this have to do with my presence here in Baghdad or occupying? They said, no, it's just prayer. He said, the poor guy, give him a speaker so that he doesn't lose his voice. So they don't mind you praying, buying a new mosque in the place where you just bought your mosque. Well, it's okay. In fact, they would offer you a loan if you take loans because they want to make money on you. Loans with riba. It's fine. But once you start getting the message out, no. This masjid is about giving talks and teaching the people what is halal, what's haram, what's allowed, what's not allowed, and educating people politically. Politically does not mean politics of the world, does not mean game of nations like Miles Copeland. Politically means taking or caring about the life of the people, caring about how do you collect money, how do you spend money, caring about distribution of wealth locally and globally. That's political means. If you want to do that, look at Rand Corporation report. I think it's about 2003, 2004, right after 2001, 9/11. They had this very famous report that says, Islam, anyone who brings Islam as an ideology, he is our enemy until the end of this world. And whoever lives Islam in a moderate manner like we do is very much celebrated. We celebrate you as a Muslim who has raised his hand like this for dua to Allah Azza wa Jal only. But if you raise your hands like this, saying, stop oppressing the people, you are my enemy. If you continue bowing down in your prayer and never look on the right, on the left, up and down on the people around you, you are celebrated. We'll give you a good prayer rug so you do not hurt your knees or you do not hurt your forehead. But once you are praying, then you get up and say, people, you should not remain poor. There is yet another system that makes you as rich as everyone else. You don't have to live poor for the rest of your life. You don't have to listen to United Nations who have been talking and giving reports every year that in the next 20 years we will reduce the poverty rate by 50%. And they have been saying that 50% number or percentage for the last 30 years. I followed the reports. And this 50% has never been there. When you come and say, look, I do have a system that will eliminate poverty altogether, the total wealth in the world, the trillions of dollars, are more than sufficient to feed each and every hungry person, to make each and every person happy. I have a system that will reduce the number of people in jails almost to none. I have a system that will not leave any person who is in need. The system that was implemented only a few years after the death of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I have that system. Then if you are like this, you are not celebrated. You are not celebrated by Rand Corporation. You are an enemy until the day of judgment. And that's what the issue is about Gaza. Today, Gaza is a symbol that shows how the world looks at Islam. These people are Muslims. Their children, they die in front of their eyes. Their parents, everyone dies. And he says, Alhamdulillah, Allah, give me one more child, so I give him away. You cannot defeat this type of people. People like this will not be defeated. And these are not only in Gaza. You will find them in Tunis, you will find them in Wahran in Algeria, you will find them in Morocco, in Tanja, in all. You find them in Syria, you find them in Iran, you find them in Iraq, you find them in Pakistan, you find them in Malaysia and Indonesia, you find them all over where Islam is. You just have to provoke that one time and you will see it. And they know that. That's why the question is, it's not only the issue of Gaza. Gaza is a symbol about how entire world jumps to Israel in order to stop that and crush that cry out and that motion, so no people do not see that. That's why the ships from America arrived at the borders, at the shores of Israel. That's why the British Prime Minister, he came running. That's why German President came running. That's why Macron came running. All of them came and said, look, Israel, don't let this up. People are going to see what's coming out of Gaza. Kill them all now, before anybody sees anything. They could not, and they will not be able to do the job. Because I am still here, you are still there, and the brothers who were in the show are still there.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. There is a question, but because of Maghrib's time, we're already about 20 minutes into the 25 minutes maybe into the Salah time, Sheikh. So we have to end this program. Jazakallah khair. It's always an honor to have you and pleasure to have you, Sheikh. And this is, it always gives us hope. And this is exactly the point that we want the Muslims to understand, that look, it doesn't matter what happens. We will continue the fight until we bring the real change that is needed, and that is exactly what the world is fighting. And as you said, Gaza is a stand. It's a stand. They are taking a stand against oppression, that we will not accept it no matter what you do. And this is to the whole, they are teaching the whole Muslim world and the Muslim Ummah, you need to take a stand the way we are. And that is the only way to victory. And victory does not come by sitting around and thinking that it will just come from the skies. It didn't happen to Anbiya, it will not happen to us. But Islam is the only hope for humanity, Islam is the only way for humanity, and we, the Muslims, are showing the strength of this deen and in the stands that we are taking, and we will continue taking the stands. So brothers and sisters, do not allow what is taking place in Gaza to be forgotten. We are continuously showing and bringing these conferences only for one reason. Number one, to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we are not going to stop speaking about this situation and doing what needs to be done bi'iznillahi ta'ala, and to continuously be in front of the face of the Muslims, and that you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to stand with the brothers and sisters in Gaza, and you have a responsibility to work to change the situation, in that we do not see another Gaza. We continue, we must, I don't care how long it takes, 100 years, 500 years, whatever it is, that responsibility we must continue. This is a call to every Muslim, scholars, non-scholars, whoever is watching. We will be accountable at the end of the day. So we must do what it takes, brothers and sisters. Just like that's why I mentioned, fine, 90 years before Salahuddin comes, but there is Abu Bakr al-Tartushi, there is Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, and there is Ibn Taymiyyah, there is Abu Hanifa, there is Ahmad bin Hanbal, there is Izzuddin Abdul Salam, and many more. We need to continue producing that and continue taking those stands until we bring that Salahuddin that brings the change, that takes Masjid al-Aqsa back from the Crusaders, and we will do the same bi'iznillahi ta'ala. Jazakumullahu khairan for watching the whole, and I saw a lot of people, subhanallah, they were watching the whole conference. Share this conference, brothers and sisters, and let the Muslims be aware. Political awareness is very important. That's what keeps us alive. That's what keeps us, meaning that Islam, this Islamic so-called political Islam that is being told not to listen to, that is because we are questioning and challenging today's status quo. And we are saying this cannot be the way for humanity forward. This is not the way forward for humanity. It cannot work like this. You cannot blow people in pieces and expect people to just accept the system that allows that to happen. It's not possible. It will not be accepted. Jazakumullah khairan, brothers and sisters, for continuing watching this. May Allah accept it from you guys, inshallah. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair, Abu Talha, Dr. Abu Talha.
يطول الظلام ديننا لن يضام، نحن جيل همام، نحن فينا عمر، لا 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 لن يطول الظلام ديننا لن يضام، نحن جيل همام، نحن فينا عمر. صبح بدا نور ظهر، نجم وشمس وقمر، ألقى على الدنيا الدرر، هذا عمر هذا عمر. كل البرايا تنتظر أيامه البيض الغرر، كي تستفيد من العبر، هذا عمر هذا عمر. لا لن تدوم الجراح، بل سيأتي الصباح، نحن أهل الكفاح، نحن فينا عمر، لا لا لن تدوم الجراح، بل سيأتي الصباح، نحن أهل الكفاح، نحن فينا عمر.